Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. The Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals, our agenda for our regular meeting tonight, October 2nd, 2019. I'd like to introduce our members and then I will call for roll call. Robert Souls, our chairman, could not be with us this evening. He would be seated right here to my immediate left. Next to him is seated Demetrius Poussalides, secretary. Jeff Sutton is next to him, and then Mr. Tom Ferrara, our zoning director, is to my far left. To my far right is Tia Cernova. She is our alternate. To my immediate right is Richard Beck. So, attendance roll call. Cernova?
Here.
Beck? Here. Sutton?
Here.
Poussalides?
Here.
And of course, Mr. Reichel, I am here. I'm your vice chairman for tonight, replacing Mr. Bob Souls, who is absent. Are there any changes to the agenda for this evening?
No.
Thank you. Statement of duties are posted in the back by where you signed in. For an element of time, I won't go ahead and read these. It's 2 or 3 pages long. And you probably had a long day too, so you want to get home a little quicker. But they are posted in the back for your perusal if you so need them. We need to approve the minutes of our September 4th, 2019 meeting. Do I have a motion for that?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that we accept the published minutes with the following modifications. The first appeal references the term residence as in occupants instead of residence as in dwelling. So it just needs to be changed to the proper spelling.
I'll second that.
Second that. And with that modification, do I have an approval of the minutes of September 4th? We'll take roll call, and that will be Cernova?
Yes.
Beck?
Yes.
Sutton?
Yes.
Poussalides?
Yes.
And I will also approve that motion. Is there any unfinished business this evening that we need to take care of? Mr. Director and or any of the members? We have 3 appeals tonight, folks, and what I'd like to do, again, in interest of time, that we have a fire department proceedings. Well, I should announce the appeals first. We have appeal 1291-19, David Arrington. We have appeal number 1292-19, Paradise Energy Solutions. And we have appeal number 1293-19, AT&T Cell Tower. We'll describe them better in a moment. Those are our 3 appeals. And to those 3 appeals, we've been contacted by Mr. Scott Kelly, who's our inspector for the Plain Township Fire Department. And to all 3 of those appeals, his statement reads, the fire department has no recommendations or suggestions regarding these appeals. Thank you for your consideration. Scott Kelly, Inspector. That was dated September 18th, 2019. So moving on from the fire department comments, we'll go ahead and move right into our first appeal. That appeal is applicant and owner David Arrington, 6136 Firestone Road, Northeast Canton, Ohio, 44721, parcel number 5205066. Request a variance to construct a 32-foot by 24-foot accessory building 16 feet from the side yard right-of-way, which will require a side variance of 116 square feet and a setback variance of 4 feet on the property located at 6136 Firestone Road, Northeast, Canton, Ohio, 44721. Speaking to the first appeal, is there anyone to speak in favor of this appeal?
Should we do it?
Oh, excuse me, very good, Mr. Director. Anyone, and again, anyone who is going to speak tonight, will you please rise? I'll give you a general oath, Anyone who thinks they are going to speak, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the information you are about to present is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for it. It's been a while since I sat in Mr. Sol's seat, so we kind of slip. That gentleman down there keeps us on our toes. Okay, again, for the first appeal, the David Arrington appeal, is there anyone to speak in favor of the appeal? Please approach the podium up here.
No, I'm in favor of it, it's my garage.
Mr. Arrington, we'd expect that, so we'd like you to come up, sir, and just tell us a little bit about your appeal and what you'd like to do
Well,
at your property.
I bought the property, it has a large half-acre yard, like most of the properties around here, and a nice driveway that makes access to this garage readily available. And one reason we purchased the property, I'm a car guy, been a auto mechanic since I was 14. I have a lot of tools, I have a hot rod, I just need a place to put them. I'm starting a new chapter in my life, I'm getting remarried in December, my fiance and I picked out this house. And I'm moving from Kent, she's moving from Mascot. Perfect place, it just needs another garage.
Is there, just have a seat right here in the front row, sir. There may be a few questions
Sure.
from the panel. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of Mr. Arrington's appeal? Is there anyone to speak against Mr. Arrington's appeal? Hearing none, Mr. Arrington, come back up to the podium and may have some questions from our members. Any questions for Mr. Arrington regarding his appeal?
Mr. Harrington, it appears you are asking for a size variance and a setback variance, and there's a situation involving the septic system or the sewer system?
No, I had that cleared first from the Stark County Board of Health. I had to do that first before I could even approach you folks.
But is there is that one of the reasons why you have to seek the variance, is because of the location of the sewage system?
No, the variance is because it's 4 feet closer to the side street, Melody, and it is 116 square feet larger than what you would allow. You allow 3% of the property square footage there, and it's 3.5%. Now, there is a small metal shed on the property which will come down next spring, because you would count that against my square footage as well. It's not very attractive. I'm going to be spending a fair amount more money than I have to put this garage up, so I can make it look like the house. It's going to have the same siding, the same shingles. For about $7,000 less, I could have a steel-sided, steel-roof pole barn put up, which would suit me just fine, but it won't look very nice in a residential neighborhood. So I'm going to be spending a lot of extra money trying to make it look nice, make it look like the house, and hopefully the neighbors will approve of it.
I think maybe I'm misspeaking, but I was reading from your narrative that says that 20-foot setback may encroach into my leach bed and would not be very appealing to the eye.
Well, well, I'm asking for 16. 20 would put it pretty close. 16 is off of the leach bed. I marked it off yesterday.
Which could incur future problems if it was any closer, is what we're asking.
I don't know.
Down the road.
I don't know.
It's a question mark, and you.
I'm a city guy. I have no,
Right, you've
no
got
idea
piped-in water
working
and-
with wells, septic, and leach beds, you know.
I understand where you're.
The lot slopes away from the garage, and
Mhm.
if the very green grass growing in my backyard is any indication of where the leach bed is, it's farther down than I thought.
Any further questions? I've got a couple. You're a car guy, and you know, we run into these. I've got toys, and I'd rather keep them under a roof than put them out in my driveway and let the neighbors see them around side streets or things of that nature. Do you plan to do any business out of this garage?
No.
Or any others, or any other hot rodders, or anything? For,
Not on a
for
regular-
hire or for sale?
No, not on any type of regular basis. I can weld, and that's a skill that a lot of people need. I have made exhaust systems for some of my car buddies, and
But would you be doing those in this garage?
not for pay. I've never taken, we trade off, you know, some people can paint, some people can weld, some people can do other things. I have one hot rod. I have tools that will fill up one whole side of this garage. I have one car. So there isn't a whole lot of room to do extra work even in this garage.
Are there any other,
I'm not building this to start a business.
no, you understand, but we have to ask these
Oh,
questions.
yeah,
Because businesses in residential areas
right.
are somewhat frowned upon.
Yeah, I understand.
And so we have to ask these types of questions. And have you talked to your neighbors around you?
Donna and Tom, I have. They're the people that will be most impacted by this because they have to see the back of the garage from their front window. Everybody else is far away, they don't even see the garage. They're either in front of my house, the opposite side of the yard on the other properties, or across the street, you know.
Okay. And you've gotten no adverse feedback from any of the neighbors that you've discussed this with? That's all the questions I have. Any others? Okay, do I have a motion on Mr. Arrington's appeal?
Make the motion. Applicant owner, David Arrington, 6136 Firestone Road, Northeast Canton, Ohio, 44721. Parcel number 5205066 requests a variance to construct a 32-foot by 24-foot accessory building 16 feet from the side yard right-of-way, which will require a size variance of 116 square feet and a setback variance of 4 feet on the property located at 6136 Firestone Road, Northeast Canton, Ohio, 44721. Be it here that the applicant has appeared in person. Now therefore here be resolved by the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals to grant the following: a 116 square foot size variance requested, 652 square feet permitted, 768 square feet requested, 4-foot set, and a 4-foot setback variance requested, 20 feet permitted, 16 feet requested.
I'll second.
Okay, any further comments before we take a vote on this? I'd just like to say, as stated in your appeal, part of the reasoning that you're in front of us tonight was the positioning of this garage would cause you possibly either immediate or future problems with your leach beds when they come from your septic system. I've also questioned whether or not you would run a business out of this structure, and you've indicated no. And we have had no adverse reaction from any of your neighbors in regards to this appeal. So with that, I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. And since Mr. Souls is gone, Tia will be included in this vote. So Ms. Cernova, what is your vote, please?
Yes.
Mr. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes.
Mr. Pusleitis?
Yes.
And I approve this as well.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, and you can talk to Mr. Ferraro.
Come by tomorrow or give us a call.
In regards.
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to appeal number 2. And appeal number 2 this evening before this board is whereas applicant and owner Paradise Energy Solutions 525. And folks, Mr. Arrington, and those that came in support of Mr. Arrington, if you don't want to sit through the rest of the meeting, you're free to get up and leave at this time.
Thank
Okay. We don't sell popcorn. All right, just so you know. Whereas applicant and owner Paradise Energy Solutions, 525 Belton Circle, Northeast Sugar Creek, Ohio, 44681, Jordan Miller, 7769 Fiddler Court, Circle, Northeast Canton, Ohio, 44721. Applicant requests a conditional use permit to to place an accessory solar system on the property located at 7769 Fiddler Court Circle, Northeast Canton, Ohio 44721, parcel number 58-19708. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this appeal? Please approach the podium.
Hello, my name is Andrew Hosteller. I'm with Paradise Energy, representing Jordan Miller.
You say Andrew Hosteller?
Yes, sir. And yes, we are requesting a conditional use permit to place grid-tied solar system onto Mr. Miller's home. And
Just before you, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You did swear in at the beginning, because I know a bunch of people
I
swear.
did,
You did,
yes.
thank you
Yeah.
very much. Go ahead, I just want to make sure we have that on record.
Thank you.
sure. And I do feel like we are meeting all the requirements that are in the conditionally permitted use for R1 Single Family District Amendment number 551. It looks like it went into effect 4/13/11. That's what we have.
Is the owner here?
He is, yeah.
Okay,
Right here.
very good, thank you. We just have a seat here in the front. Anyone else to speak in favor of this appeal? Is there anyone to speak against this appeal?
I just have some questions, if I may. Should I come up?
Come on.
I want to know how far it is away from my house.
Come on, Dix.
Name and address, please.
Okay, it's 5376 East Drive, Northwest, Canton, Ohio.
What was the address? 5376?
5376, East Center Drive,
East Center.
Northeast,
Well, this is for,
or Northwest, I'm sorry, Northwest.
This is not this appeal now.
you're talking about the tower, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, this
That's what I thought.
is for a solar panel.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Well,
Folks like you don't attend these meetings on a
I've
daily
never, ever
basis.
attended one of these in my life. This is the first.
We don't bite, okay, we don't bite. Anyone else to speak against the current appeal, which is the solar panel? Or any questions? Okay. Any questions from the board?
yeah, come on back up.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ostetler, I see you have the AEP letter.
Yes.
That's required under our code, and then, is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
And that's in the packet.
Yes.
And then these panels are gonna, looks like it's gonna be on the rear of the house, is that?
They're on the rear of the house. They're flush mounted, about 4 inches off the roof.
And they're gonna meet the requirements under our code.
Yeah, I read down through there and I don't see anything that, I guess the only thing that I guess wanted to point out is item 6 with the glare. I've had these put on airports in the area here that went through, I guess they waived their right to a glare study with the FAA, so there was no issue with those.
I don't understand what that means. Let me ask you this way. Is there gonna be a glare on people's, that neighbors are gonna be able to see the panels?
Shouldn't be, not that I'm aware of.
I don't have any questions. Okay, can I have a motion on this appeal?
I'll make the motion, it's on 1292-19, applicant owner, Paradise Energy Solutions, 525 Belm Circle, Northeast Sugar Creek, Ohio, 44681, Jordan Miller, 7769 Fiddler Court Circle, Northeast Canton, Ohio, 44721. Applicant requests a conditional use permit to place an accessory solar system on the property located at 7769 Fiddler Court Circle, Northeast Canton, Ohio, 44721. Parcel number 52-19708, whereas the applicant has appeared for the board today, make a motion to grant the following, that the property owner can have a conditionally permitted use of an accessory solar energy system in any zoning district requires our approval, that they can have this approval to install the accessory solar energy system at 7769 Federal Court Circle, Northeast Canton, Ohio.
I will second that motion. Just an additional comment from myself, that, you know, that it looks like he has met the requirements with the AP letter that Mr. Bussolini brought up earlier, the Claire study. We're seeing more and more people come to us with looking for solar energy. So as long as those requirements are met from this board in Plain Township in general, I would be in favor of this appeal. So with that, can we go ahead and have a roll call vote? Ms. Cernova?
Yes.
Mr. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes.
Mr. Pusolides?
Yes.
And yes, I will vote yes as well. So again, you have met that, and again, you can talk to Mr. Ferrara in the future.
Thank you very much.
Give me a call or come. Okay, thank you.
And again, like I stated in the previous one, if anybody was here just for that, you can go ahead and leave. You wouldn't offend us. He knows we don't sell popcorn, so he's getting out of here.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And we should look into that, Mr. Ferrara, in the future.
If you want to bring popcorn, sir, you're more than
Do I
welcome.
have to bring that up to the commissioners, or how do we work that out? Some nights we get long nights here, you know, but hopefully this isn't one. Okay, our third appeal for the evening is applicant and owner GPD Group, 520 South Main Street, number 2531 Akron, Ohio 44311. Von Lynn Limited, Yvonne Walter, managing member, 1513 Chitwell Street, Northeast Canton, Ohio 44714. Applicant requests a conditional use permit to build a 195-foot tall cell tower and compound on 42.39 acres of farmland located on the east side of East Center Drive Northeast between 55th Street Northeast and Columbus Road Northeast. This falls under section 702, 701.2B10 conditionally permitted uses. Is there anyone to speak in favor of this appeal? Please approach the podium and make your statements, please.
My name is Ed Block with GPD Group. Here is an agent for AT&T. At the presentation board over there, I'm not sure if everybody's already received some of those drawings from the board, so if the public wants to see that.
Yes, we have received them as a board. Maybe we'll save that for the questioning phase, and then, yeah, put it to the side there, and then you can instruct the others that, like the woman that came up earlier.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
As you indicated, AT&T was here to request approval for conditional use for an under 90-foot tower. As far as the conditions, conditional permitted uses for this our district, I went down the list. Essentially, all building structures, towers, components must be surrounded by an 8-foot high chain link fence, covered with barbed wire. We're doing that. We've got that on the drawing set. The interior ground wall fence areas, stone aggregate, 3 different environmental hillside. That's how they're built. There's also weed fabric put in underneath that as well. Furnished copy of liability insurance. That was told to us that wasn't necessary at this time, but we could certainly supply that. Tower shall be lighted, the standard FAA lighting. The FAA conditions are anything under 200 feet does not require any lighting unless it's near an airport, which we don't believe this is the case here. So there won't be any lighting on the tower whatsoever.
I think ironically, that used to be an airport.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, back in the days. Go ahead.
Like a grass strip.
Yeah.
So there's no lighting whatsoever that would make that. Operating frequencies of cellular transmission shall have no effect on television or radio reception. It operates at a totally different frequency. If by chance there was some kind of an interference with somebody's TV radio or something, which again, totally different. AT&T is the company coming in after those exist. They go in and tweak the frequency essentially so it won't interfere, so they can change. Tower height shall not exceed 300 feet, we're only proposing 195. The setback distance from all adjacent property lines for any building, structures, or tower components except for guy anchors shall be 1/2 the height of the tower. We are centered almost north and south equally by a distance of almost 700 feet. From the road, we're 1,400 feet. So the distance is 100 feet off the back of the property line. So that's, we're meeting that requirement. The next one said guy anchors shall be located at least 10 feet. This tower is self-supporting, so there are no guy anchors whatsoever. And it's a monopole design, a single tube. It's not three-legged or like a television tower. I'm going to skip down to applicants shall demonstrate the telecommunications tower located where it's proposed in order to service the applicant's service areas. There were coverage maps that were provided with the application, and essentially what that's showing is a before and after. So the target in the center of that particular, I've got more if you need it.
Well, explain what the center means, the green versus the red and the yellow.
Right, the legend at the top says states basically good coverage is red, green coverage is poor. So we're not saying that this doesn't have some coverage in this area, but with the technology today, the data streaming, it has just voice transfer, and the fact that more and more people are using the technology that kind of overloads the existing site. So the ones that are targets that are here are their existing sites. The one here is the one being proposed.
And that would correct those green areas.
Next page, you flip over, you'll see how it's filled in that gap with solid red. And part of the reason I'm stating this first is because going back up, applicants shall request permission to install the tower, shall provide evidence at any time, at the time of making the application, that essentially an existing tower won't work. There is one to the northeast, it's over a mile away. It's the same height as what we're proposing, but there's already a carrier on top of that. So we're moving farther away from the area we want to try to cover and fill in. And we'd also have to be lower down, since you essentially whoever takes the top, you have to be 10 to 15 feet below that. So that's why
That would not correct that situation.
The problem with putting it there is it would fill in a gap, but then it's going to create a gap between what's currently covered and where that fills in. So you end up putting maybe another tower in later to try to correct that.
Yeah, I'm asking probably out of,
No, that's a good question.
you know, for these folks, I think maybe as the storyline goes, that we can kind of get to this, but, okay.
Applicant requesting permission shall allow essentially providers to co-locate on the structure. AT&T designs them for minimum, basically have 3 carriers, in other words, themselves as well as 2 other carriers. Tower design, they go out and do geotech, they use a foundation specifically for that location, for the loading on the tower for 3 carriers. That all those documents get submitted to the building department, so there's proof of that. No advertising is permitted anywhere in the facility. The only thing that's identified there is a sign on the front of the gate with essentially a emergency contact number, 800 number. Tower shall be painted a non-contrasting gray or similar color, minimizing its visibility, otherwise required by the FCC or FAA. As I mentioned, doesn't have to be lit, so it also doesn't have to be painted, red and white, and they come in a galvanized finish, so it's not going to rust. So that's your gray. And then the last one, the facility shall meet radio frequency emission standards as established by the FCC. And that is definitely what they're doing. One thing besides the distance that we're showing there, I don't know that it was supplied, but back of the property. You can see it on the drawing here. Very heavy woods at this point, also woods along here. This expands that view. And what I want you to see is there's a dimension on there that says 500. What that is that's the depth just of the woods itself. So between the tower site, which is the dot or the yellow pin, and the nearest neighbor, all those houses on that next street over, they have all that tree cover in between them and the tower. And that doesn't even take in the perspective idea that I'm standing here. That's the old adage, if you put your hand in front of your face close enough, you're blocking the view. So those trees, as they get close to the house, somebody in that house, their view over the top of the trees is going to be a lot higher than because of that distance away. So that's pretty much the presentation.
Okay. Anyone else to speak in favor of the appeal? Is there anyone, Mr. Sutton, did you have to leave?
My apologies to the board and also to the folks who have come tonight, but I unfortunately have a prior commitment I could not get out of.
Rest assured, folks, we still have a quorum of 4, I should say. So, Mr. Sutton, thank you for appearing for the first 2. Thank you. Okay, now anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak against? Now, ma'am, you've got your question. Not necessarily against, you just have a question, correct?
Well, I have questions, concerns.
Go ahead.
We live fairly close to this. I need to know exactly how far away from my house.
Ma'am, first with your name and...
Oh, sorry, Mary, where's W-A-E-R-S? Address 5376 East Center Drive, Northwest.
Northeast,
Oh, is it northeast?
yes, sorry.
Whoops. And anyway, my house, pretty close to that. I want to know exactly how far away it's going to be, and my concerns are, and I did do some research, not a lot, but some research, mainly Japanese, because they're the only ones who actually did the health benefits and problems with the health. Is this going to be a, what do they call that, a G5?
5G.
Is this a 5G?
This time there may not, but there could be.
You see, the 5G's got me very concerned because of the health benefits and the radiation that it puts off. As we all know, these put off radiation, that's how they work, you know, the radio.
You speak to the board, ma'am.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Another concern is my daughter, my granddaughter is deaf. So she wears cochlears. These interfere with her cochlears. Will that?
We'll bring him back up to answer these
And
questions.
how close is this from 5376? I can't really, I'm like right there, yeah, I'm pretty close. And this tower's gonna be way over there? Okay, so the tower's by the road that has the gas,
The gas
tanks.
holder at the road.
That's pretty close.
This is that. At least 1,400.
Yeah, that's pretty close, and that's downhill. So when you're looking at, we are up on the hill here, and you got that tower so high, you know, we're not gonna be that high from the radio frequency. So, you know, I got some concerns, some health concerns, some concerns about my granddaughter's deaf and her cochlears, because she can't talk on a cell phone, to have it like this and on speaker. It interferes with her cochlears. And, you know, we use a thing that we speak on when she's far away, that she can hear us, because she can't hear, you know, the loud noises. How much interference are we gonna get from that?
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak against? Go ahead.
I'm Doug Milhouse, 5641 Breezewood.
Did you want to say something?
I can probably show you on the map. My 200-foot trees are right here. Apparently that's going to block the view of this thing. I've lived there since 1971, that's when my parents built it. The nature of the area, you know, it's woods and farmland, basically. And I understand that, I came and looked at the stuff that you guys have, all the presentation yesterday, so forgive me if I get the details wrong, they don't send that to us. So I may not have everything perfect, but I understand sometimes people move into farmland like that and they complain, you know, like when we left tonight, it smells out there and they want to come in and change things. They don't want to leave it the way it is. Well, that's not the case here. I mean, we've lived there for 50 years. We're not asking to change anything. We're not asking, you know, we put up with the dirt from the farming, the dust, the noise, the smell, the oil wells, the trash blows up from them. Now we've got the quarry down there. I mean, we've never come in and complained about all this. But these people want to come in and basically put a 20-story electronic tower in our backyard. And it's just for money. I mean, this isn't like the one fellow, he had to move the building, you know, the first guy tonight, he had to move it over, he had to request a variance due to necessity. Well, there's no necessity here. As he just stated, they have other options. There's a tower up on Shannon, which is about, I drove it, it's 1.2 miles when you drive it, but I'm sure by straight line, it's got to be less than a mile. You know, they could achieve the same goal just by putting it where, you know, there's an existing one. That one's out in the middle of nowhere. There's no homes nearby. You know, we're back, our houses might be more towards the front, but we're in our backyards, you know, practically every day. The only thing I see out there, there's a post driven in the ground with like a pink thing on it. And I was standing in my yard and I'm, you know, 50-some years old, and when I was playing with the dog, I can throw a walnut past it. So, you know, it's very close. I understand he says there's some woods there. There are from the people on the other side, there aren't from us to the north. And, you know, the trees, they're not pine trees, these are regular trees, so 6 months out of the year, there's no leaves on them. So we're going to be able to see this thing. I don't know, like the lady said, I don't, you know, I'm no engineer, I don't know what the dangers are to something like this. I understand sometimes, you know, you have to put things that aren't really wanted into a neighborhood, you know, like a school that brings a lot of traffic or an emergency room or something like that, for the good of the community. This tower is not for the good of the community. This is for the good of AT&T and making money. You know, we're not going to benefit from this tower at all. We're going to have this 20-story thing in the back of here. I didn't see, obviously we're concerned about our property values. There's no way, obviously this is going to make our property values go down. I've never seen a cell tower in a nice neighborhood, and I doubt any of you are thinking, hey, I'd like one of these in my backyard. I'm sure that would be nice. When you add in this chain link fence they're describing, it sounds, you know, even better. I guess the other thing I'm asking, you know, it's a conditional use. What conditions is the board going to put on this? You know, I've been in the township for 50 years. I don't see many 20-story structures around. So I'm assuming this is kind of a big deal. I would hope that the township would protect the residents by putting some sort of things as far as maintenance and upkeep. You know, I would hope this thing doesn't fall over, but it's certainly going to be an eyesore. I guess I just like to say I'm opposed to it due to the location. If you look at it, I mean, this is all farmland here. This is the quarry. Why not put it down, you know, if they want this access road by the oil, put it right down there by it. You know, why would you put it near residential and children and everything else when you've got, you know, an open quarry right down at the bottom of the hill on the same road? So those are my concerns, and I guess I'd just like to hear what the board plans to do. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Milano. Anyone else to speak against? Please approach the podium.
Good evening.
Name and address, please.
Ernest Ressix, 3849 Columbus.
Can you spell your last name?
Yeah, it's a tough one. A lot of silent consonants, and there's W-R-E-C-S-I-C-S.
Go ahead.
Definitely gonna be redundant, but just to reiterate, the trees, as far as aesthetics, they're maybe, I don't think they're even 60 feet, so that's one issue, is the aesthetics. And then the health concerns, whether substantiated or not with evidence and studies, I think just the perception simply would deteriorate property value. And so I think everything else has been covered, but just the perception alone, aesthetics, the health adverse effect studies, and also, there are within 2 miles, I know I drive past them all the time, I do see 2 other cell towers down a little bit east of where this one is supposed to be installed. That's all I have.
Thank you. The address is 38.
49.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak against the appeal? Name and address, please.
I want to start by saying I didn't stand up when you were swearing in. We'll do that now.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the information you are about to present is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Please, name and address, please.
Dan Borkowski, using boy, Bohar, K-O-W-S-K-I. Address is 5667 Reesner Drive, 44705.
Go ahead, sir.
So, for this here, this is my property right here. I'm Doug's neighbor. The tree line that he showed here looks bigger from the foliage, but at the base, there's just like 5 trees back there. It's not wooded in that area. So as far as that being by the wooded area, that's not really substantial. As was pointed out, down close to the road, across the street is a very large quarry. I don't know why you would want to tuck it all in against residential properties when it could be by a road and by a quarry. I have kids that play in my backyard all the time. And like they said, even though our houses are out by the street, we use our backyards every day. And my kids sleep out there. We have campfires out there. You don't really need a tower looming over us with whatever concerns it may bring. And obviously the property value is an issue for me. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else against the appeal? Okay, sir, you can come back up to the podium and maybe address some of the concerns that was brought up before we start asking questions.
Okay. As far as the lawyers, the location of her property is down in this corner, just off here. We do have a dimension here that shows 400 feet from the tower to the road. So coming back to her house, it's going to be something in that range, maybe 1,300. As far as interference with someone who's deaf,
Cochlear devices.
the tower, I can't imagine affect that. The phone is doing that. That's something that you have in close proximity. I could sort of, I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and it's the first time I've heard of that particular instance. I can certainly look into it, but it's not something that I'm aware of. The indication that it's a benefit just from a money standpoint, obviously they're putting it up to provide communication to anybody who has those phones. And not only those, but in the case of Verizon or T-Mobile, if they come in later and put their antennas on that, then they have better service with that. So it's not just making money. Property values have been studies for years that show that there is no impact, or I've seen subdivisions being built where towers are. I've seen towers put up later. I built my house, which is has some value to it. Tower essentially across the street from it, which in my opinion, I was glad because they really would have coverage there. And it is on the country too. As far as the fall over or concern about it falling over, These are designed based on the government standards, or whichever is more stringent. So they're designed to not fall over, first of all. They're also designed to withstand winds that most homes are not going to be built by those standards. So if there's a hurricane or tornado coming through that would essentially possibly cause that tower to collapse, chances are anybody on the ground is going to be gone or in the basement if their house is still standing. But we're also quite far away, in this case, from an actual building, residential building or otherwise. As far as the health concerns, the government actually set up a standard, and I'm not sure if there's legal counsel here, but essentially stating that they've already done the studies. Jurisdictions are supposedly allowed to make a decision based on health. But the point is that the antennas are up at the top of about 195-foot tower. Okay, the radio signal that comes off of there diminishes exponentially. And so the study that the federal government did, and I've got some documentation here to show that, diminishes to the point where you're going to get more exposure from a microwave or TV or something in the house than you'll ever get from that. On top of that, these have been around for a number of years, as well as, if you think about radio station towers, these operate at 100 watts, maybe 300 total. Radio stations in my days used to advertise how many megawatts they were operating at. And I know a number of communities, Strongsville has, multiple radio station towers, the parallels. They're right there in town. They've been around longer than any of them. So the idea that these cause injury or harmful effect certainly should have turned up long before and been documented by now. So you can get online and look up information. I've got information from the American Cancer Society with me if you want copies. I can leave that with you. And I think that covered all of it. It wasn't any. I do have, was this turned in along with
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that I identified where the owners were that will try to come up.
Any questions from the board?
I think my question was going to be the same as what a couple people brought up. What made the company decide that that was the best location for it and it couldn't get the same service elsewhere?
They start with we are given this basically coordinate with what's called a search ring on there. And what you're going to see is there's some shaded areas. There's one that says not interested. So when we go out to look for a place in that ring area, it doesn't always have to be right inside the ring. Sometimes we have to go outside of it. They look at the zoning code. They look at existing towers first. They look at existing tall structures, water tanks. Sometimes it won't work. And then they go to commercial properties, non-residential. What does the zoning code say? But when they get out into the rural areas or the residential areas, which is even harder, there just isn't anything there. So when we contacted the various property owners, the one that Ms. Walters said she was interested, we met with her. She said this is where she would like to have the site on the property. As far as, don't think she's here. If there was a request to move it closer to the road, that would have to be something that we would have to talk to her about.
She's the owner of the property?
Her.
Managing member.
Okay. So AT&T doesn't own this property?
No, they will have a lease with her.
Do they have an existing lease or a proposed lease?
They've got one, I don't know if you've signed your end of it yet, or
Not
just,
yet.
it's in process.
How much is it a month?
It's usually private information.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm
I
going
can
to
tell
ask
you
you
later.
On the record, how much are you going to be paying the owner to lease this property to put a cell tower on?
I don't even know yet.
Well, I'll give you the range, because I don't know, honestly. The range usually starts at 500 a month. And it's based on, essentially, you think of property value, but it's really on density. Going to a city where you've got a lot of calls coming in, property values are more expensive there. So it's not the property value, it's actually the number of calls coming into it. You get out of the rural areas, the property values are less, but from the standpoint of the tower receiving business, so to speak, it's getting fewer calls.
So, okay, so how many calls are you getting in now?
In this area, I have to get the.
You don't have that information for us.
I'm sorry?
You don't have that information.
Not right now, no.
Okay, how many more calls do you expect to make by putting this tower? Do you know?
Okay. I'd have to ask the radio engineer.
So you don't know?
Not now.
Do you know how much more money AT&T will make by having this tower there?
Just might have a-
Will it be more than $500 a month?
Initially, maybe not.
Right. Where's these two maps? I got one map. Where's the other map that, it's like a before and after map? Where you're saying this is how much coverage it is now, we put this map, it's gonna be X amount of
One
coverage.
right behind the other. You have the one behind the other.
All I have is this map. We only have one map. I want to see the before map and the after map.
I thought I stapled them together. I did, but I didn't give you those. Sorry about that. I just reviewed my copy of the same.
Okay, tell me where the tower's going to go. Right? This one right here? Is that what that little thingy is? Okay. And when you show us this map, this just tells us the green goes away and it becomes a little bit more yellow, but does it tell us how many more, well, the green just, it doesn't mean no coverage, correct?
Pretty much, yeah. That's at the bottom of the spectrum.
Okay, but there is some coverage.
In this area, there's some coverage. Like I said, the red is the best.
I get that, but right here, this green area here, is that where the airport used to be? Do you know, this green area here, like, is that a residential area? Or is it just fields?
I'd have to have an aerial that goes out farther than what I currently have.
Let me ask you this, in this green area that's shown on this map, does AT&T have a list of customers who have said, man, my call drops in that area, or I just can't get coverage in that area?
They usually base their sites on two things. One is it can be based on calls, but second is they're also trying to improve areas that they know that they can see are lacking coverage at this point.
Right. Do you have names of customers who have called and said, I can't get coverage in this area?
No.
Does AT&T have a list of people that are not buying AT&T products because there's a lack of coverage in this area?
How would they find that out?
No, you're saying, AT&T is saying that they need more coverage in this area. What proof do they have that they need this coverage? Other than them saying, that, I've got a map that has green on it.
Right, and that's how they determine locations that need coverage.
Well,
I mean,
so
they're
if
not
I
in the
have-
business,
so
they're
if
not
I-
in the business of spending $500,000 to put up a tower because they don't need coverage.
So if there's an area, well, it doesn't make any sense though, if there's an area that has no coverage, but there's nobody living there and there's no road that goes through it, why would you need coverage there anyway? That's what I'm trying to get at, is how do we know that the coverage that AT&T needs here is really needed?
Well,
We don't have that evidence in front of us, do we?
I can bring an RF engineer back in and discuss.
We don't have that evidence before us today though, do we? Okay.
Other than the coverage map.
All right, and I'm looking at under the conditionally permitted uses, 149, it has a list, and I think you went through them, but I want to go back to little I. It says, any applicant requesting permission to install a new tower shall provide evidence at the time of making the application of written contact with all wireless service providers who supply service within a close proximity of the proposed facility. Did I read that correctly? Have you provided that evidence to us?
We didn't because we felt that tower was not within that proximity that would do this, provide the service adequately.
Well, let's go, we gotta follow our
You're
rules.
saying in close proximity.
But we gotta follow our rules here. It says, any applicant, of course, you're an applicant, requesting permission to install a new tower. This is a new tower, correct?
I know where you're going, yes.
And you can follow along. Shall provide evidence at the time of making the app of written contact with all wireless service providers who supply service within a close proximity of the proposed facility. So you obviously, and you have not provided that evidence that you've contacted these other wireless service providers.
We do not have anything in writing of that nature.
Do you know of what the next tower, how far the next tower is that supplies service to this location?
AT&T's?
It doesn't say AT&T's, it says application of any wireless service provider who supplies service within a close proximity of this facility.
There's one that's approximately a little over a mile away.
And you're saying that, and who is that that's a little over a mile away?
It's a tower that our understanding is managed by a company called ATC, which is American Tower Corporation.
And are you saying that a mile is not within close proximity?
As far as what they're trying to cover, by moving it a mile farther north, that creates more of a gap between what they would cover with this location and coverage of the existing tower to the south. Would it provide coverage? Sure, it would, but it's not going to provide the coverage. And again, they co-locate on these all the time, and they would do that.
It's not going to provide coverage that you want here on page 2 of your 2-page document, but it's going to be better than page 1.
Sure.
So you're going to get more coverage. If you go to this ATC tower that's a mile away, you're going to get better coverage than what you have now, correct?
You put it on a telephone pole, you get better coverage of
So
what we have now.
to answer my question, if you go to this ATC tower a mile away, you're going to have better coverage than what you have now.
Certainly.
Has AT&T gone to that ATC? Have they contacted them?
We know it's there. We've been in contact with ATC on multiple sites, but not this one. I mean, other than knowing.
So there has been no written contact with ATC with this tower that's a mile away in regards to using that tower?
We have them on our list because we have to identify when we're going out and doing the search. So we do have them on our search as an existing tower and what a possible rad center where the antennas would go on that tower.
I'll take that as a no. You have not contacted,
Well,
AT&T
no, we
has not
haven't.
contacted
But we don't have
ATC
something in
that's a
writing
mile
that
away.
they can't do that.
That is, so if it's not, if a mile's not within, if it does not meet your description of close proximity, what would meet your definition of close proximity? Like 100 feet, 200 feet? I don't know, tell me.
Now, in this case, and it's based on not just, it has to be this area that you're looking at. As I mentioned before, you could be downtown Cleveland and you can have them 3 blocks apart because of the number of calls coming in.
Do you happen to know what the diameter of that red circle is on the map?
We usually use a 1/4 mile radius on search areas that are in the city. But this, here's the road that we're talking about, ATC's on. So this is obviously, if that's a mile away, then that's maybe 3 tips.
ATC's towers in that map,
It's out of the picture up in here on that road.
on what road? Columbus Road, or what road is
Stay on that one.
I think it's Shannon Street.
that? I think someone did mention.
It's Shannon.
Here's one that shows the towers. This is the one he's talking about tonight.
Well, so in this map that you gave us, this, where it has the towers, AT&T could go to these other towers and see if they could use those towers?
That's where they are currently.
Okay, these are towers they already have. So is the Shannon Street Tower on this map?
Is the ATC tower?
Yes.
No.
Or are those just AT&T towers?
So they're just AT&T.
Thank you. Okay.
Any other further questions?
I do have one more question. And again, pointed out, they have a 42-acre parcel. Is there a reason that it has to be as close to the residential side of that 42 acres as possible? Could it not be in the,
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
it could not be in the center?
For the owner of the property, is there any reason why you put it there where, well, I know why they put it there, but is there any reason why it couldn't be closer to the sand and gravel and out toward the other road rather than back by the trees? And you said that you would have to make that decision on what, he had mentioned that you'd have to make the decision on whether or not it could be moved.
Right, it could be moved, but I understand they go for the highest level to get the widest broadcast. And that, where they have picked, is the highest level of our property.
Based off that question, do you have any questions?
I mean, this, they're asking, you're the property owner,
Yes,
and they're asking you $500 a month they're gonna pay you?
no, we haven't, this is
I
preliminary.
can chip in the money and just give it to her.
Oh, we're
So it
talking
doesn't have to pay.
about-
And that's all, that's facetious, I'm not being serious about that.
Sir, could I say something? We cannot go into additional negotiations until we have the Plain Township Board of Trustees say that we could go ahead. And no, it won't be for less.
No, it won't be for them.
You know, I had brought up earlier that, you know, we were voting on a solar panel tonight. There weren't too many years ago that we were voting on these cell towers. It's new, it's an unusual animal, it's a new animal that we've never seen before. A lot of resistance at the beginning. We live our daily lives upon these, in fact, mine too much on this thing, okay? And Wi-Fi and what have you, I get it. Solar panels. Your neighbor who, you know, maybe, you know, is the neighbor that says, get off my yard, looks across the street and says, I don't like the looks of those solar panels on that guy's house. Okay, so we've got that argument. But I think what Mr. Pusalides was trying to point out is that in the rules that were drafted and put up by the township, I've been on this board longer than anybody, and I remember when the first cell tower came to town, and all we were trying to do was encourage sharing of poles. And I think, you know, one of the ones that stands out in my mind the most is the one behind Rice's Nursery there off of Schneider Road. That once they came to town, they wanted to be the only name in town, and they wanted to put their stuff up on that pole. Well, if you pass that pole today, there's 4 or 5 carriers up there. And I think what he brought up, the small I in our rulings, is we encourage carriers to share where they can. Now, I'm not throwing this out there as a blanket coverage, but share where you can which would reduce the amount of poles that go up to begin with. And I think that's why that was put there, and that's the only comment I have for that. And I think you probably agree with me, Mr. Pusalides, is why that's there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, we could go ahead and put this out for a straight vote tonight, or, you know, you asked some very, very good questions that we don't have answers to. And I don't know if it would change anybody's mind here on the panel if we had additional information, such as why weren't the other towers contacted? Why don't we have their statements and things of that nature? So, you know, I leave it up to the board whether or not they want to go for a straight vote tonight, or, well, I guess we put it in motion form, and we'll go from there.
Before you make that decision, and the applicant, can I request a continuance
You can, yes.
to discuss property owners or location?
Absolutely, you can request a continuance.
Since we're also missing Mr. Sutton and Mr. Soul,
Absolutely.
I would request that.
And is it proper to act it if he asks for a continuance, like we've done in past? We're not going to add an additional charge for him to come back.
There will be no charge, I think you would table it.
Yeah, we-
Motion to table. Someone needs to make a motion to table.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, I'd like to address the board.
It's past that stage, so you had your opportunity.
I just want to ask a question about in close proximity. What does that mean on your end of the question? You keep on saying in close proximity, in close proximity. What does that mean? How far is in close proximity to an existing pole?
I would say, to me, I can only speak for myself, but it's certainly a mile.
I don't have that knowledge. I don't have that knowledge. I'm not an electrical engineer or a radio engineer or what have you.
Well, I
Yeah.
I know that it is listed in our township guidelines, I
Yes.
want to call it,
Yeah.
and they say in close proximity, but
Yes.
there's no figure, no meters, no feet from
Well,
existing.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, is that this says that all the applicant, it doesn't say that you can't have a tower within close proximity. Let's just say
Right.
that's a mile. It doesn't say that it can't be within a mile or a half mile. The problem that I think we're having is that it clearly says that the applicant shall provide evidence at the time of making the application of written contact with wireless service providers within a close proximity. That's not asking too much, right?
I'm just trying to determine what that means.
So I think they need, personally, I think they should have come before us with written contact with these other wireless service providers within close proximity. It's certainly within a mile or 2 miles, or even, maybe even larger. I'm not gonna commit to that, but there's been no effort to do that, and that's the problem.
Thank
So
you
if
for
somebody wants to
addressing
make
my
a
question.
motion to table, so, because we could vote it down and they could come back, right, Mr. Farrar?
Yes.
I mean, we could vote it down today and then they'll just come back with,
Well,
whatever.
if they came back, they would have to have substantially new evidence to bring before the board.
Substantial evidence for you to prove it.
I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we table this to allow the applicant to have a discussion with the property owner and present new information to this board and possibly to 2 members that are missing from this board, although, again, we have a quorum here. So the other 2 are somewhat irrelevant there. But I make a motion that we table this for additional information and for renegotiation between the applicant and the property owner.
Is that being tabled until the next,
That-
November 6th?
That would be for the next available date,
November 6th.
which would be table this motion until our next general meeting, which is November 6th. Is there a second to that?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, a vote on that.
Ms. Cernova?
Yes.
Mr. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Posilides?
Yes.
And Mr. Reichel?
Yes. So, let me grab my, a lot of paperwork up here, folks. Appeal number 1293-19, applicant and owner GPD Group, 520 South Main Street, number 2531 Akron, Ohio, 44311, Von Lynn Limited. Yvonne Walter, managing member, 1513 at Chidwell Street, Northeast Canton, Ohio, 44714. Applicant requests a conditional use permit to build a 190-foot tall cell tower and compound on 42.39 acres of farmland located on the east side of the East Center Drive, northeast between 55th Street Northeast and Columbus Road Northeast. This applies to section 701.2B10, conditionally permitted uses. This board, under a motion by Mr. Reichel and seconded by Ms. Cernova, and after a roll call vote, have voted to table this appeal until our next scheduled meeting, which is on November 6th, 2019 at 6 p.m. And shoring up our end of business, are there any announcements? Further announcements? Well, I guess the no meeting in November, that's out.
There
So
will be a meeting in November.
there will be a meeting in November, and
Make a motion to adjourn.
adjourn
Second.
and a vote.
Ms. Cernova?
Yes.
Mr. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Posilides?
Yes.
And Mr. Reichel?
Yes. Okay. Folks, that's all we have for you this evening. This meeting is adjourned.